Hi, this is James Lee. Welcome to the course introduction to Red Hat Linux Network Administration. Red Hat is a registered trademark of Red Hat Inc. And Linux is a registered trademark of its creator, Linus Torvalds. Linus is the one who originally created the Linux kernel, and he has registered the Linux trademark. So the description of this course is this course will provide you with an intensive hands-on Linux networking training. We're going to do hands-on with a lot of different networking applications, such as Apache Httpd and Samba and NFS and others. We'll talk about a bunch of different utilities to set up and maintain a network on a Linux server, and we'll also describe or get you prepared to take the Red Hat Certified Engineer, also known as RHCE exam. All right, the objectives of our course include, we're going to describe machine identity with DNS and DHCP. So what we'll do is we'll set up our machine to be a DNS server and also a DHCP server. We'll also set up our machine to be an FTP server, an NFS server, and a Samba server. And the Samba server is going to essentially implement Windows file sharing using a Linux machine. We'll talk about administering users. We'll go into some detail about how to create users, delete users, and so on. We'll implement email. We'll do so with SendMail, and we'll use Postfix. So our machine will then become an email server. We'll use HTTPD to set up a web server. We'll talk about different features of the web server, including creating virtual hosts and other things. We'll also talk about the Squid proxy server, and we'll proxy our web traffic. We'll talk about firewalls. So we'll install a firewall. We'll describe how to set one up. And then we'll also talk about monitoring our system. And we'll implement user security. So we'll describe user security in detail and then use secure protocols to communicate, such as SSH. The prerequisites for this course is you should have taken Red Hat Linux System Administration or an equivalent class. And you should have similar Linux experience. So basically you should be a relatively experienced Linux admin. This class maps to the Red Hat's RH253 course. So this course is essentially the same as the Red Hat RH253, which is the network administration class. If you take this class and Red Hat Linux Essentials and the Red Hat Linux System Administration courses, then you'll be prepared to take the RH302 Red Hat Certified Engineer exam, also known as the RHCE exam. So let's talk about what are the topics that we'll discuss in this class. We'll start with installation. So we'll take a machine and we will install Linux on it. Then we'll talk about an introduction to networking. How does Linux do networking? How can we stop our network, restart, and so on? We'll describe what is DNS, and then we'll have our Linux machine become a DNS server. We'll also describe DHCP and describe how we can make our Linux machine become a DHCP server. We'll describe network file sharing, which is basically the ability in Linux to share a directory and its subdirectories through the network. We'll also talk about how to have our Linux machine become a Windows file sharing server with something called Samba. We'll discuss user administration in some great detail, creating users and so on. We'll also talk about email services, so we'll become an email server. We'll talk about HTTP, the web protocol. We'll also talk about the web server Apache, and we'll talk about the Squid proxy server. Then we'll discuss routers. What is a router? What's a firewall? How can I make my Linux machine be a firewall? And how can I monitor the traffic through the network? We'll describe user security, such as how can I secure things, including using the proper protocols like SSH. And then we'll talk about how we might troubleshoot our system. So things can go wrong. How do we figure out what's going wrong? How do we fix it? So the path for certification and training includes Red Hat Linux Essentials class, the Red Hat Linux System Administration class, and upon taking those two classes, you would be prepared to take the Red Hat Certified Technician exam, also known as RHCT exam. And then adding on to that, you can take this Red Hat Linux administration class and be prepared for the RH302 Red Hat Certified Engineer exam. So lab exercises can be downloaded from the download section on the course page. I highly recommend you do that. Go grab the course files, and then you can try stuff along with me as we go through the modules in the class. And if you have any questions as we go along, be sure to use that question and comment box. So let's get going. Let's talk about Red Hat Network Administration.